In order. Jesse, could you please call a roll?
Here. John Hedlund.
He's excused. Excused. Here.
Here.
Here. Present.
Item 1C, approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 2A, student, staff, and community recognition. We have a couple of certificates to give away tonight, well-deserved individuals. The first one is from Chelsea, presented by Mr. Schrader for Chelsea Salas. In her first year as a student council advisor, Chelsea was asked to overhaul the homecoming activities in hopes of creating more school spirit both inside and outside our walls. Her efforts were obviously a huge success based on the number of positive comments received from the staff, community, parents, and students. Thank you, Chelsea, for embracing change and making Spooner High School a great place to be. Thank you. Our second award this evening goes to Marvin Jacobs. Marvin has stepped into a long-term special education paraprofessional role this fall. He has done an excellent job connecting and building relationships with students and being an important part of our team at Spooner Middle School. Thank you, Marvin, for stepping up into this role and your positive commitment to the kids at the Spooner Middle School, presented by Mr. Fiesel. In addition to those two individuals, I'd like to make mention and congratulations to the 7th and 8th grade boys basketball. Our 7th and 8th grade boys basketball team started their season on Monday, October 28th. Good luck to all the players and coaches. Additionally, our girls golf team had a great season, finishing with a second place trophy at the state match. Additionally, the entire varsity team has been recognized as an academic all-state honoree. Congratulations to the FFA officers. The FFA officers have traveled to the National Convention in Indianapolis, where they were able to participate in a number of activities, including a tour of Fair Oaks Farm, Purdue University, Pumpkin Patch, Expo Center, along with sessions at the convention. Highlight was a book signing with Temple Grandin. I'd like to congratulate the varsity football team. Congratulations to our seniors on their selection as a Wisconsin Football Coaches Association Academic All-State Team. To qualify for this honor, the cumulative GPA of the seniors must be above 3.35. They are Nick Lindgren, Spencer Griffith, Owen Dernovzik, James Naritz, Alex Adler, and Sean Swizzler. Congratulations to these 6 individuals who were selected for the individual academic all-state honor, and these were presented by Mr. Fiesel and the previous golf and FAA individuals by Mr. Schrader. Thank you. Let's give them a hand. Item 2B, tonight is the night we are going to interview a couple of different firms to do for our superintendent search. So we're a little short on board members this evening. We do have a quorum, but so no decision will be made this evening as far as which firm we select. But we are anxious to hear your input, and the first up will be from the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, Ms. Cheryl Gullicksrud. And it's all yours, ma'am.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. As your member association, we've done searches for many, many years, and this is a service that we're proud of, and we've worked hard to make it one that's very useful and helpful to you. So I appreciate the time tonight. I'm going to take just a second here to introduce a partner with me tonight. with our search service, we do always have a second consultant assigned to the search that we always work side by side. So in case something would unfortunately happen where the lead consultant isn't able to continue some kind of emergency, we've always got a backup so we don't stop your search in any way, shape, or form. So tonight I have with me Bruce Quinton. Mr. Quinton has just joined our WSB work group, so he is shadowing tonight so that he can be a part of this search. So I want to give him a chance to say hello tonight too.
All right, y'all, thank you. Again, pleased to be here in Spooner, Wisconsin. As I told board members before, I grew up in Shell Lake, Wisconsin, so very familiar with the area, and hopefully Sherry can finish the whole search on her own, but I'd be happy to help you out in any way. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome to Spooner.
Yep. And Bruce would be coming to the meetings with me too if we were fortunate enough to be selected as your search firm. So our backgrounds are listed on the slide, and also board members, you have a packet of information. All of the slides for tonight are in that packet so that you can refer back to them later. And also for those that are joining us online, I did save or give copies of those packets to Mr. Weiss, so you will be receiving those materials. So without further ado, I'll move forward a little bit here again. There's some information here that was in the proposal that all of the board members already received. My main goal for tonight is when I leave that the board members, you all have your questions answered. So I'm going to go through the slides fairly quickly, and then make sure that we have the time for you to ask the questions that you have. And we might touch on a few things, but I just want to make sure we get to your questions. In your packet, you will also find a revised timeline. In the proposal you received, we gave a tentative sample calendar of all of the activities, and a request was made, could we possibly shorten it up? So I will be coming to that timeline also, and going through that in a little bit more detail. These are the stages for our process, and again, this is something over many decades of doing searches that we've discovered works the best. The planning and preparation piece is something I do a lot of time with the board on. One of the key components to our searches is having input from stakeholders, community members, staff members, and that's something the board would have conversations about how you'd like to do that, and in the timeline, we'll go through that. The interview tasks, the candidate selection, finalizing that search, and then transition support is another piece that we're very proud of. We do offer the opportunity as part of our search process to work with the board and the new superintendent with a goal-setting meeting after they get started on the job. So at this point, I think what I'd like to do is just strictly go to the timeline. These next sets of slides actually run through all these pieces. So this will also help answer your questions about what this might look like. So the first thing we would do if we were selected to be your search firm is, again, all of these dates can be moved and changed, but we'd have a focus group meeting with the board and a planning meeting as soon as you possibly could schedule it. When I built this timeline, I tried to hit your regular meetings or your committee of the whole meetings. This first one, unfortunately, if we want to speed this up, has to kind of fall between. All right. During that meeting, we would talk about the whole search and make plans for how you would like that search up to run. The first thing that would come out in terms of publication and letting people know about your search is also in your packet. Last spring, I did the Bloomer search. And there's something we call a vacancy notice that we publish to about 500 people that are in our database, in addition to all the CISAs and to national groups, saying there is a search coming from Spooner. More information will be coming, but we put that out within a day or two of the board planning meeting, so it's out there for people to see. And it's just a short, abbreviated set of information. And again, I apologize, the vacancy notice isn't on the slides, but you do, as board members, have a copy of it in your folder. At that board planning meeting, again, we'd talk about community survey, we'd talk about community focus groups. That's the next item on the timeline. And I have those trying to be completed before Thanksgiving. And the whole point of this timeline is to have the vacancy posted and out for people to be applying through the month of December. We like the posting to be out for 3 to 4 weeks so that we get people have time to get reference letters and to get their information submitted. Then we'd be looking at the first part of January to do interviews. We'd be looking at final interviews the end of January with a contract offer either at your committee of the whole meeting or your February regular board meeting so that you would be finished with your search by the end of February. Okay?
Can I ask a question? Just real quick?
Absolutely, anytime.
The 500 people that you said in the database, could you explain that, just what,
Yep.
who those people are?
Any of the people that have applied for positions in the past or that have set up a profile because they're going to begin searching, those people are all in our database of previous applicants, current applicants, and they all get these notices when they're published. They also get the notice of the final brochure, which is the other piece that's in your packet, which we can talk about in a little bit too, because once we get done with the input from all the stakeholders, we create an electronic brochure that describes your posting in your district. And again, I've provided a copy of the one we used in Bloomer so you can see the difference. There's an initial vacancy notice that goes out, and then that final brochure goes out to everyone in the database again, as well as colleges, as well as all the CISAs, and as part of our national groups that we're associated with. Does that help?
Yep.
Okay. And again, I feel like I'm rushing, but we will come back to any of these pieces that you'd like to talk about. So planning and preparation, we will talk about how you want your search to be and what groups you'd like to be included, how you'd like to do a community survey, and we will talk about all those pieces and timeline that you would like to do them. We do, again, like I said, impress the importance of engagement with stakeholders, whether it's community service, or community survey and focus groups, or one or the other. But we do look to have at least one of those pieces to get information from stakeholders. During that planning and preparation, we have application. We collect and process all the applications. One key feature I'd like to point out about WSB is we do not screen those applications and tell you these are the only 3 that you should interview. You as board members will see every application that comes through and every piece of documentation that people provide for their application. That's just something we feel is important. You know your district, you know your community, and we're not going to eliminate people. You are going to see all the applications and be able to have a review of those pieces. You will select the candidates that you want to interview. Part of our job would be to make all those contacts, to set up those interviews. We would be doing all the calls for people who were selected as well as those who were not selected. We will also help you write your interview questions. We have a pool of questions that you can select from. You can also write some of your own. Our job is to make you aware of what you can and cannot ask legally in interviews and make sure that the process is done correctly. Again, some notes about what I just talked about. Final stage, again, board will determine who the final candidates are. There are some background checks that we will provide as part of the agency that was listed in your proposal, and then board members and we will help you with doing some of the employer checks. We've found that that works better to have a direct communication with the board member, whoever's decides to do that, to come back to report to the group. You know what's important to you. Again, we will assist with questions and creating that form that you use to call those people. One of the services we also provide is salary comparables. So statewide districts that are the same size as Spooner. We also give you your athletic conference and your CISA comparables, so that you have some current information when you're looking at contract negotiations. There's the revised timeline, again, starting potentially the first part of November and finishing up in February as requested. As part of our proposal, we do have an evaluation framework for new superintendents that would be included in no additional fee for you as an additional service. We also have a 2-year guarantee, and we're quite proud of our retention rate. Within your proposal packet, there was a list of all the districts we've served in the last 3-4 years, and we have a 99% retention rate with the hires that we assist with in the first year. And in the second and third years, it's over 80% retention. So we put a guarantee in our process that we will repeat the search for you at no additional fee for the consultant time if you end up losing your superintendent because they leave. There are some conditions that we probably can't predict. That might be emergency situations where someone leaves because of an illness or that kind of thing. But if they just leave to take another job, we would be doing that search for you again at no extra cost. So why choose WSB? We work with Wisconsin schools. That is our area. We are not a multi-state. We are Wisconsin. We are your school board association. That list of schools that are in your packet that we've served in the last 3 years, I'm proud to say that 16 of those searches were mine, and they're rural schools, and that is my background. I was a superintendent in Mondovi. I worked as a CISA 4 administrator, and majority of those school districts were a Spooner size or smaller. That's where my heart is, and I feel an honor to be able to serve the districts that I've been able to work with. So that is our specialization. That is what we're proud of in terms of the work that we do. All candidates are brought to the board. Key decisions are made by you. We do have a broad network of posting. I think there's some discussion sometimes that WSB, there's a misunderstanding out there that we don't recruit. We don't recruit because all of the school, in sense of we calling a school district and saying, hey, apply for this job, because all the school boards in Wisconsin are part of our organization. But do we make people aware of the opportunities? Yes. But we don't call up your current superintendent and say, hey, would you consider applying for this job next door? That's just not an ethical way to work with all of our members. But do we keep aware and have conversations with people who are looking? Yes, we do. When we have our 2-year guarantee. Closing, new superintendent's most important activity for you as a board. We have the experience and the background to help districts your size. And while we provide advice and counsel, you make the key decisions, and we're here to help and guide you. So that's a quick rundown, but I wanted to leave half the time for you to ask your questions. So are there any questions particularly from each of you now that I could help with?
I appreciate that, Cheryl.
Yep.
I'll tell you what we're going to do. We have a list of questions that we've come up with, and some of those you've already answered, but we're going to go down the line here, and each of us will ask you a question. I'll start with number 1. What makes your company the best choice for Spooner?
All right, like I said before, we have Wisconsin schools as our background. That is the organization that we work with. There was a list in that proposal of all the school districts that we've used. We have a very high retention rate with our process. The superintendents and the boards are a good fit. They continue to work together for longer periods of time. And again, the background that both Bruce and I, because Bruce's background is in more of the rural schools too. We are not urban school experts. That's not our cup of tea. But the rural schools, we have lots of background and experience working in. So our retention rate, finding a good fit, and the experience we've had with a variety of school districts.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew?
The second question is very similar. What sets you apart, though, from other firms? You offer these things, but what sets you apart from the other ones? 2
things. Number 1, there are firms that will screen and say, here's the top 3, and you would interview only those top 3. We let you, as a board, see all the application materials and the candidates. So that I know is one thing that's different from us. Number 2 is just our experience as a team. I have a list here of all of the search consultants that work on searches, and every one of them have experience as superintendents. I also have a legal team back at the office that will help us with questions as well. A great office team that's been working on searches together for the last 20-some years, I believe. Sally's been there, 15, 20 years. So a team that's worked well for a long time together, focused on Wisconsin schools. That is our main reason that sets us, I believe, apart from some of the other agencies.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Could you just speak in the mic, because for those online? Yep, thanks.
You're doing a live stream, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Andrew, you asked the question about that database we have. Every superintendent in the state and principals who are looking to become superintendents, they know that's there. So within the state of Wisconsin, people know if I'm interested in a superintendent position, I'm getting my name in there and filling out that profile. So that's huge. So when you post it, most people who in the state either are a superintendent, want to make a move, or are at the principal level looking to move into a superintendency are probably going to receive that search notice.
Thank you.
No, totally. Yeah, again, you'd asked about that pool before, so anyone that's applied in the past and gone through, they'll get the notice.
Thanks, Terry. You want to ask the next one?
Sure. So my question, what will the total cost be for the district for your search?
So the proposal that we gave was not to exceed 12.7. Now, when I build those budgets, I always include the maximum it can be, because the last thing I want is to come back to the board and say, oops, we have something different here. I included the maximum number of focus groups, the maximum number of meetings, interview times. My experience has been there's not always 2 nights for second interviews. And on focus groups, I can sometimes, depending on how it works, I can get them all done in one day. But when I built that budget, I did it for the highest amount that it could be. And you would only be billed for the actual time and the actual expenses that occurred. You're not going to get billed to the max of what that budget was, okay? So I believe the 12.7 was what was quoted in there, but that would be the max.
Let me add on to that. How many districts end up paying the 12.7? Do you ever come in under budget on a lot of them?
Oh yeah, and mine a lot of times I do, but I can't. I mean, I'm always careful with that, because I had a search originally on that for a variety of reasons ended up posting 2 or 3 times. Didn't find someone they liked, then they had someone that turned it down, and then they had someone that again turned them down. So but even that one came in like I think $100 over the original, even though we met and had final interviews 2 or 3 times. So I try to be very conservative and careful when I give that original estimate. But yes, all my searches so far have come in less than.
Thanks.
Yes.
Megan?
What services does that cost include, and what, if anything? Which I think you pretty much answered a lot of those questions already.
Yep. It'll be the board planning meeting with you. It's the focus groups with however many groups you decide to do. Yeah. It includes the community survey. It includes information that comes back to you. In addition to all those applications, you will get a link to get to those applications. It's all online. And the day that the application period closes, you will get a link that you can go look at all the applications. And you will also get a resource book, so that when we meet that night to go through applications, there's a resource book that has potential interview questions. It has process for looking at the salary pieces. It will have your community survey results all listed in it. It's most of what's in there, quite honestly, is my time for the meetings, my time for calling all the applicants and setting up the interviews, my time for putting the paperwork together when you sit at those interview meetings. Jessie has a lot on her plate already, so I try to help as much as I can so that administrative assistant doesn't end up with a lot of extra work. There is one piece that we do have to connect on. Someone in the district does have to help provide the information that goes into that brochure that you saw in terms of district information, and a lot of it can come off your webpage, but we do have to work with someone in-house to get that information. But otherwise, scheduling, paperwork, setup, all of it, I would come prepared to all those meetings without having internal house people have to do that.
Okay. Michelle, do you have any questions on anything that's been talked about so far?
No, and I do not at this
Okay. I'll continue then. Next question, is the cost of advertising and posting on national sites included in the fee schedule, or is there additional cost for websites? Now, you mentioned you don't really do a national search, correct?
Well, we do, because in your proposal, there is the organization that our state school board association belongs to, the national affiliation.
Okay.
It does go to that. So in your proposal, there were some additional, if you want, beyond additional national pieces added for advertising, but I've yet to have a district do that because we have the national superintendent group that we promote to. I've not had anybody ask for that before, but there are additional places that, yes, you could ask for additional marketing and advertising. But as Bruce said, we get the Wisconsin people. Part of this is the Wisconsin School Leadership Center, where all educators are looking for positions. We have an agreement with them, so our postings go out to that organization. Again, all the CISAs, and we ask them to promote them internally. So we're blanketing the state of Wisconsin, plus we have the national piece as well.
So the cost of all that is included in this,
Yes,
in your proposal? Okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
No, that's a good question, because we do have a lot of neighboring states and people, I mean, especially our adjacency to Minnesota.
And the other piece is the universities. So we do have a number of, especially along the border with Minnesota, where those universities are getting our postings as well. So we're definitely connecting on that side.
Okay.
Joe, I'm just, 6 and 7,
Yeah,
she just answered
I think those have been answered.
Is that okay
yeah.
if I,
Sure.
So
move
number-
on.
so how does your screening process work?
All right, again, applicants will apply online. On the day that the application period closes, you will have, as board members, links to all those materials. So when we come together as a board and you're going to screen and have conversations about looking at those candidates, and I walk you through and answer any questions you might have about what does that acronym mean, or what is it that this person did? I don't understand this piece of what they put in their resume or whatever. As we're going through those conversations, I'm helping you with that screening process. I also have a score sheet that I can provide for all of you that we use as part of that meeting. You will also, in the materials that you get ahead of time, if you're reading through the materials over that weekend, there's a score sheet in that set of materials that you will have as well. So we try to support you and help you in any way we can, but you do this screening facilitated by me or Bruce. Does
Thank
that
you.
answer?
Yep, thanks.
Yep.
Anybody further want to question that at all? Okay, Terry, go ahead.
Okay. So will you participate in first and second round interviews?
Yes, that's part of what's built into that budget is my attendance at those meetings. And like I said, I built that budget for 2 nights for first round, 2 nights for second. I also have in there an extra night each time, because when you get to that second night and you're trying to decide who your finalists are or who your person is that you're going to select, sometimes those conversations get started at rather late hours of the evening. So when we sit and talk through our planning meeting, we're going to have some, and you'll see that I've got or in terms of the final date, because sometimes it's best to take a breather for that night and come back. And that's built into that budget as well as my coming back for those extra days. Now, sometimes we don't need them. It's clear, everybody's in agreement. It's all fine. We don't need that extra day, but it's in your budget.
Megan?
Okay, 10 and 11 kind of go together. How do you involve the community and staff in gathering input on your selection? And then the next question, it kind of goes together. To engage the community and staff, do you already have questions generated from previous superintendent searches? Or are you using input from the district stakeholders, district culture to generate questions?
Yeah, we do have a pool of questions for the forums. But we also, as part of that planning meeting, just talk to you about how do you feel about these questions? Is there anything else you'd like to get from the focus groups? Like I said before, we do firmly believe that there's needs to be, it's a wonderful opportunity for you to engage with your stakeholders. But you can decide at our planning meeting how you'd like that to look. Would you like a online survey? And most people do that. It's included in the package. But in addition to that, focus groups. How many and how would you like that set up? I've done focus group situations where I've been at the school for the day and we set up different times where groups of people can come in. We, as consultants, have done open forum meetings with community members. It kind of can range the gamut, but we need to get input somewhere, somehow, to create that profile that was in that brochure about this is what Spooner wants in their next superintendent. That information is best when it comes from multiple sources. So yes, we do have a standard list of questions that we've found that are very effective and get to all the points that we need to get to, but you certainly can have some input into additional questions if you'd like. But we do have a standard set of 7 questions that we ask all the focus groups to get that information.
Terry, go ahead.
I was just going to ask a follow-up on that. So do you have a predetermined statistical representation of what you like to reach for the community, like 5,000 people, you know, we need?
No, we don't. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't have a goal. Okay. We've had as many as 200 people respond, and we've sometimes had as low as 75 people respond. You know, different communities, if they're surveyed, they've been filling out multiple surveys, sometimes they just don't want to do another survey. They just did one. But I find most of the time there's good interest in filling that out. And it's online, open to the community. We can talk about at the board level if there's concern with not everyone having internet access, if there's some other ways that you'd like to get that same information with paper copies at the library or something like that. The only difference with that is the data then doesn't necessarily get included in the SurveyMonkey data. We'd have to tally that up separately, but we do want to get out to as many different community groups as you would like to get feedback from.
Let me tag on to the focus group question. Yep. Who is responsible for putting the focus group together and the makeup of the focus group? Is that something you do, or is that something the board does? As part of our planning meeting, and I'll be honest, I mean, up front, that's about a 2-hour meeting because there's a lot to plan. But we talk about those focus groups. How many composition? Do you want community on an open forum? Do we want to do an invite? Cut it off. I've had one district that just said, hey, if you're interested in being part of the community focus group, the first 25 people. Or I've had people take all the names and draw them out of a hat because we can only have so big of a group sometimes to have a good conversation. So those options are things that we could talk about at the board level, then how you'd like to have those focus groups go. One other thing about the community survey, and it is an optional question, so not everybody answers, but it does ask, are you a community person, a staff person, a student, a business owner? There are some demographics that come through, but it is an optional question, so sometimes people skip it, but it is interesting to see where the responses come from. Michelle, do you have any questions on what we've discussed further now?
No, not at this.
Okay. The next question I will ask would be, how would most interactions between you and the board occur? Would they be virtual or in person? I prefer in person. I'm just kidding. I mean, that's what's built in the budget is my drive time to be here. But I've done them virtual as well. And we've also done some mixed things where like the board planning meeting, maybe the candidate selection meeting is virtual, but the interviews I really do prefer to be here. Would the cost be the same for a virtual meeting versus an in-person? No, because there's mileage built in there and drive time built in there, so that's something at the planning meeting we can talk about. Again, that budget includes, all of those pieces, my drive time and mileage. Anybody want to comment on that at all? If not, Andrew, go ahead.
Yes.
Number 13.
Seeing if they already answered it, but are you conducting reference background checks for us or giving us the resources to complete those? So on the one slide, we do the educational criminal background pieces,
But the employer check, where someone calls and talks to previous employers, people that the candidates provide, so that final group of candidates, whether it's 2, 3, or 4, usually not more than 4, 3 is common for finalists. We ask the finalists to provide us with, if there's any changes to the reference list or if there's particular ones. But we do have one of the board members, and we provide the questions, and we provide some guidance and support. But that is something that works better if someone from the board that has a sense and a pulse on conversations. And it is a reference check from the employer, in a sense, potential employer. So again, we can talk about those things. I certainly can assist, but I know as an organization, when we've talked about this, that's typically been the practice and preferred practice, is if someone on the board is able and willing to do that.
Okay. Carrie, would you like to answer the last one or not?
Well, she already answered it.
Yeah, I think
Yep.
that was included in the timeline.
Okay. Yeah, as far as the timeline goes, I'd like to see it done by the end of February. This board planning meeting, it might be, November 11th might be a hair early to do that. So
And
if we
I
could
realize
push this
that.
back maybe a week, that would be okay.
Yep, and I'm pretty flexible. I was just trying to get those focus group meetings, and that's what I worked backwards. So certainly we can be flexible, because right now I have 4 weeks in that timeline for posting, the whole month of December. Now, if we have to shorten that up just a little bit to make things all work, that's certainly
Is that an
doable.
average time that seems to work the best is 4 weeks?
3 to 4 weeks. Again, especially since a little early in the season, you get into February, people have been applying, maybe they've already gotten all their reference letters, they've got all the materials. Sometimes it just takes a while to get those things put together, and it's the holiday season.
Right.
I wouldn't go much less than 3, I'll just be honest. 2 gets a little tight for people to get stuff turned in. And that just limits your pool then, if people can't get all that stuff in on time. But we certainly can be flexible with the dates. I just tried to look at when you normally meet and tried to fit in around those dates, but totally up to you.
Thank you. Anybody on the board have any further comments? Appreciate your time this evening, and again, we're not going to make any decisions this evening, but we will meet soon, and we'll be getting back to you very shortly. So.
Well, again, I certainly appreciate the time, and I see we're pretty close, so there we go.
Right on the money.
So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Our next meeting will occur virtually, and that will start at 6:15, which is in about, 7 minutes? I would ask the board right now, as far as going over all the information we're going to get tonight, we can either have a separate meeting on this to discuss, or we can tag it onto our meeting next week with the Minong board at the end of it in an executive session situation, so we could discuss it. But we'll need to come up with a recommendation for who we want to hire, and then really kind of what our goals want to be too for the new position. So what's your pleasure on that? Would you rather have a separate meeting or tag it on to the Minong meeting, or kind of don't want to? I'd like to get it done really before the 18th, because I think we need to move on this. I like to keep moving.
Well, if we're going to try to keep with that timeline, you were going to.
Yeah, well, the timeline, like I say, 11th won't work because we're going to meet the 12th with Minong, so we can have our board talk on that meeting, but then we can set up a board planning meeting with whoever we hire after that.
I will be out of town next week. So.
All week? Okay. Well,
That doesn't.
yeah, I mean, you can provide your input though prior to that, so. Okay, what do you guys think? You have any preference?
if if we're already attending a meeting, I think for convenience, for making sure that we get as many people there as possible to the meeting, I would just say we try to do the same thing. Yeah.
Tag it on the Northwood meeting, okay. That sounds good. I think we'll do that. Carrie, you think you're good with that? Michelle, do you have any input on that?
I think taking it on is a good idea.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully we'll have more members here then, and we can talk about it and get it nailed down. So that's good. All right.
You ready to admit him?
Is he ready?
Dion?
He's on, but I have to admit him. So.
Ready to let him
I think we're ready. Are
So
you guys ready?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Hi, Bruce, do you hear me? This is Joe Weiss. Good, how are you? We've got you on screen, and right now we're a little short on our board members this evening. 3 of us have not able to attend, but we do have a quorum, so we're gonna listen to what you have to say and digest it over the time here, and we'll be getting back to you shortly, but we're not gonna make any decisions tonight on your status, but we encourage you to give us your proposals, and we're glad to hear it. So Dr. Bruce Miles is our presenter from Big River, is the name of the company. So, and we'll be asking you questions following your presentation. So go ahead. Very good. Yes, we have Joe Weiss, we have Andrew Melton, Terry Aslison, and Megan Benson-Moreau.
Very good, thanks. By way of introduction, I'm a former paraprofessional. I taught regular special ed and went into administration. And then for 6 years, I taught courses in Ohio State as a full-time professor for teachers going back to be principals, district administrators, special ed directors, business managers. I went off on my full-time. About 60% of my clients, schools, profits, city government, elected boards. The other 40% are private. The biggest problem that I see with SUS, well, there's a couple of problems with traditional SUS. One is that, for the most part, they just use resumes. They use interviews. Those are actually, according to research, the 2 least likely tools to give you a quality candidate for the job you want to do. You've obviously got an HR person on your board with Jepson. Executive searches are even more difficult because in grocery shopping. So what happens is a lot of districts having tremendous optimism about who they hire and not work out. I'm working with a couple of other districts right now. They just had tremendous optimism about the person walking in, they've not got it, causing a problem. If you've all got the proposal there, what I put on the early part of page 1 are 6 real key steps to getting a search done right. Actually, 7 part of it. But I want to make it clear that there's number 1, I'm not an elected member of the board. So my job is never to make a decision in your stead. Other search firms believe that they can look at the candidates, decide who you ought to interview. I think that is taking away some of the board's responsibility with that. What I do is help the board set up a score sheet for all of the applications based on your goals and plans, so that you hire somebody who can do what you want to do. I don't want you hiring like the Packers and drafting golf wrong, but looking for the best athlete available. I mean, all school districts have similarities, but every district's got a little different direction of where they're going, a little different history, and they need somebody that fits them the best. And the way to do that is to orient the search around those needs screen all the resumes and applications for it. Make sure that nobody comes in that's selling you a bill of goods. Are there any questions about those first 7 items under the purpose? I got one close by.
We do not.
Megan, do you have something there in front of you?
Yeah, it's from the email that they previously sent us. So,
Well, I'll just make a quick note. Every decision is in the board. These are steps specific to smaller and outstate districts. A lot of transparency. I want a school board to get political capital. I want the incoming successful candidate to gain political capital by having a very transparent search where people have a lot of input. All of their input is advisory, but the board makes decisions. I want to make sure the board can filter out the people that have some flaws that may not be readily apparent. I want the board to go through strong interviews and check references. There are 5 real big steps. Here's the first. We have to translate whatever the board believes the goals are for the district for the next 2 to 3 years. We have to be able to translate those into resume score sheets. So as you start going through the people, you can determine who is more likely to have experience doing what it is. The single biggest predictor is whether or not somebody's done something successful somewhere else. Even if he or she is coming up and they're coming to you as a business manager or a school principal or a middle school principal or curriculum instruction director, as long as they've had experience successfully doing what it is you've done, they're more likely to be able to do it. What I do is I send out a list of 8 to 10 email questions that the board approves. And tell people after they've applied that they're in one of 3 piles. Green, we're very interested. Yellow, we might be interested. Red, we are not interested. But those numbers are brought about by the board scoring. When I call the candidates in the green pile, what they want to interview, first they say yes. And I say, great, then I'm going to send you these email questions. They all have to do with what the board wants this person to be able to do successfully to run the district. You'll have 24 hours to answer the question. You get to pick the 24 hours that you want. I'll send them to you. You'll have from in detail and give us a reference to each answer so that I can go back and see if you really did what it is you said you did. So what happens is we put this really fine filter up to push these candidates. And between using resume and package score sheet and you reading the answers that they come up with for the email questions, I guarantee you, you're going to be able to figure out who the top 3 or 4 people are right away. I've had people that say, I'm interested, this is for a job in Illinois. The soup candidate said, I'm not going to be able to get to a computer to answer the next week. So, where will you be? He said, I'll be in Tampa. I said, they have computers in Tampa. And the guy said, I'm not interested in doing it. I went back to the board, and the board said, if he's not interested enough to fill out the answers during his vacation, we're probably not interested enough to answer. The board moved him. But I guarantee you, when you read those answers, you will see hardly who can do the job for you. And that's the tightest filter you can put people through. Phase 4, then, is you all doing the interview. But you're going to be so educated on who those people are by what they've done that coming up with interview questions will be very, very, very easy. You'll have a lot of ideas about what you want to learn more about Apple. At the end of that, we send people through a security screen, then you make your offer. Prior to all that, you'll need a very small subcommittee of the board to go through the current district administrator's contract. They should go through that contract, green highlighter, and a yellow highlighter. They outline green what they want to see in the next contract. They outline in yellow the things that they have some questions about, whether they should. And in pink, they outline the things they do not want us to in the next. We take those and send them off to your district attorney. He or she then drafts up the next document. You've got a little clearer understanding. During the time this is going on, we also put out online surveys for community members, for all of your employees, and some districts have them use students in grades 9 and 12. We take feedback, what the district's doing well and what they want us to improve. Because the improvements are the biggest thing you have to work on. During the interviews, I would also encourage you to have a community set of interviews for your finalists and staff. Again, the more transparent you are, the more political capital you build, the more success the person has. I can tell you're finding this fascinating, so I'll stop talking. We can put a question.
No, you're.
What can we do for you?
Well, we have a number of questions we can ask, and we're going to go down the line here and just ask them one by one. And then at the end of that, if anybody has any further comments, we can proceed. But I will start with the first one. Bruce, what makes your company the best choice for Spooner?
Two things, Joe. Number one is I work almost exclusively with outstate and rural districts. Outstate and rural districts are the most effective school districts in the country based on the number of dollars spent a day on community support and protection. I'm from small and rural schools, and I choose to work in small. Second, Big River sets it up so you literally make all the decisions. From the very beginning to the very end. Big River also sets it up so you push these people through that filter. You send somebody 8 questions, they're going to be your district administrator. Pretty common for people to write back a page to a page and a half pages. Because you're going to see who really wants to earn the job by their answers and by their past experience. It's literally a fail-safe. Never had a failed search. I've never had a superintendent who didn't get a second contract because it always worked.
Okay.
Next question is very similar. What sets you apart from other firms?
The very first thing that I mentioned, that I put every decision in the hands of the board because nobody elected me to be there. By doing a real transparent process that everybody in the community and staff can board gains political capital, incoming person already has the way paid for it.
Thank you.
Jerry?
Yep. What will the total cost be to the district for your search?
What I did is I put the cost on page 4.
Mm-hmm.
Pull them up for you right now, or you guys can pull them. I would also add 500 in travel.
What was that?
Bruce, you're buffering.
Nope, you're good now.
Now you're back.
Terry? Go ahead.
Yep, he's locked up.
Buffering again? Yep.
Otherwise, he's holding still pretty good.
One of the two.
So I have, the total is, with the additional 500, it's $10,050.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, man.
Thanks. I used the calculator.
I was going to copy.
Let's see if he has the same.
That's what I came up with,
Are you back up? Can you see us, hear us?
I think.
Your picture's locked up right now.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
Tells me it's live.
we got you now, yep.
Who's?
No problem. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, we looked it up. We looked it up.
I would charge 500 for.
Number 4, Terry, do you want to test that one, or?
Oh, yeah, so maybe it's already included and you covered it, but what does the service the cost that we totaled up include? And is there anything that would not be included with what you provided?
Good question there. So
500
there's a
travel.
question about where to. I've had districts advertise all the way around to just within the adjoining states. If you were to put, I asked the district to pick up the cost for the posting. My experience, they're less than $500. You want to go to the Wisconsin school administrators, Minnesota and Illinois. Typically, 90% of your applicants within 3 guaranteed. The district picks up those costs. It's whatever you want to spend. My experience is typically less than 500.
So that's in addition to the cost?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct. If you were to just use the Wisconsin school administrators, Minnesota school administrators, you would spend less than $2,000. Illinois is a little more expensive. For that, there's any value. The last couple of Wisconsin searches I did, we did not.
Okay.
Megan?
Yes. Let's see. Is the cost of advertising and posting on national sites included? And you just answered that question. So that was the additional $500. And then can you, the next question would be, can you explain your process from start to finish? You did that, so we can skip probably 6 and 7. How does your screening process work?
After the board lets me know what the district goals are for the next couple of years, what the really big pillars are, develop rubrics so that board members can staple packs that have cover letter, resume, all the materials that person's going to provide. It allows each board member to go through and score those resumes. That's the step, and that moves into those green and yellow and red pockets. Is that enough, or would you like more?
No, I'm fine with that.
That's good.
Yeah.
Will you participate in our first and second round interviews? And that'll be virtual or in person, usually? In person? Yeah, okay.
Quick note.
Yeah.
I need boards on how to do this process. Matter of fact, I've done this in the Wisconsin school board. Literally, it was a pre-con, showing people how to do this new tool. So if finances are an issue, I can work with the board in commission or a subcommittee to get some of this done. But I believe it's a must there.
Okay. Michelle, do you have anything that you want to ask as far as what we've talked about so far?
No, I'm good.
Okay, thanks. Andrew?
I think you answered this a little bit already, but how do you involve the community and staff in gathering input on on the selection?
Question. There's an online survey for the community, an online survey for all the. Those folks get a chance to identify what they're looking for, what they want to see the superintendent be able to do. We also host sessions at the school, sessions for the community, so that they're involved with the interview. And you typically bring in, so let's just say bring in Andy Anderson and he or she's gonna meet, like, the school staff, 4:30 to 5:30. They get a break to water, eat, go bar. Then they would go to the community, 15-minute break, and then go see. And you just keep bringing those top 3 or 4 people. I'm not a fan of interviewing more than 3 or 4 people, because quite frankly, it wears out the board. It gives an unfair advantage to people on the 2 ends that you're interviewing. And it's just, boards are gonna interview people, they don't know what they're.
Are we good?
Gary, pick one.
Okay, so I'll, next in line, to engage the community and staff, do you already have questions generated from previous searches, or are you using input from either the district stakeholders or our district culture and us to generate those questions?
Yes, both. What I do is I typically put together a list and run it to the board subcommittee, have them identify what they want on the survey. I also want to use the same questions for the committee that you use with employees, so the board really gets to look at any differences or similarities. I think that's important to know. And quite frankly, I want your successful to get those too, so he or she knows more about what they're after.
Question,
Okay,
yep, the next question, how would most interactions between you and the board occur? Is it virtual or in person, or a mixture?
But all the work that has to be done on the front end, quite literally, sort of at my desk. That's where things get them all organized back here. So really, it's a lot of phone calling, emailing, until we get up to the schedule. There would probably, we need to have a quick Zoom session with probably the 2 or 3 person from subcommittee to make sure we set up the schedule and have the logistics, and everything's face to face after that.
Okay.
I might ask, where are you located exactly, and where would you have to come from to be here?
We sold our house over in rural Minnesota and moved down to Georgia, and down to Colorado.
Okay. So you'd have to fly up here then for the meetings, correct? Obviously. Okay.
We've also got 4 other school districts working with this winter on searches and plus a very large lumber yard, so I'm back.
Okay.
My hope is to cost share on the website.
Okay. All righty. Michelle, do you have anything?
I don't.
Okay. Let's see. Megan, you asked the last one, correct? I think so.
13.
Well, we can ask, are you conducting
Go ahead.
reference background checks for us, or are you giving us the resources to complete them on our own?
The district already does do the effective background checks. I would encourage you to use the same system. I do quite a bit of background checking, officially and unofficially, as a result of people I know and places I've worked. But in terms of the final stuff, clearance and security check, I would encourage you to use your.
Okay.
Okay, one final question. Timeline-wise, I'd like to get this done, or I think we'd all like to get this done by no later than the end of February. Is that possible?
I would encourage you to get it done sooner than that.
Okay.
In December, we're going to start seeing a lot of positions over. And there are a lot of boards that are going to do their hiring in February and March.
Mm-hmm.
Very early. I'd like you to be picking from the top of the pile, not the back end. You have the luxury of not being in the news for the last 2 years. I think you're going to get a pretty good pool.
Mm-hmm.
My suspicion is you'll get 15 and 25 applicants. Some will be aspiring superintendents. Some will be superintendents that want to You'll also find with you superintendents that when they leave where they are now, they're not going to be. And you want to and contract and your salary range, benefit range, nailed down. So that when you decide on your person, it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Using this system where you use that email questions, nobody goes through those who doesn't want a job. I've had people all getting the questions because they just want to kick some tires and maybe go for it. Not going to. I want you to be ready. And if you really were to push it, it could be done by the first. I don't think that would impact the quality of the candidates. I just think I'd like to see picking.
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt, you could by the end.
Anybody ask a question? Any further questions that you have?
I was just curious, are you saying we're interviewing by the beginning of January, or that's like the process? We've.
Technically, by about January 10th. And I'm going to follow up with one thing again. When you get a district administrator that's not a good fit because of his or her personality, lack of experience, or inability to do critical parts of the job that are critical winner, you make your life more difficult. It just doesn't work well at all. And so you have to be able to onboard the new student. Now, 20 years ago, you could throw him or her the keys. They would go off and do the job and they see it. Because you're going to know these people better, application and their email and their interview, you're going to come up with a much better way to onboard him or her. So that you're going to put up some guardrails. So that if they start bumping into the guardrails, you can tighten up the guardrails. But you can't just hire district administrator, some things are going to go well. So we'll be spending some time with the board about how to do feedback, performance evaluation every 90 days for the first year. Because without it, you really stand the risk of letting somebody cut it just has to be done. Groups have to be onboarded. All administrators have to be onboarded, or else they run the risk of low road.
Going back to the community survey thing, we're relying mainly on emails to the community then? Is that how we're gonna, how you would propose surveying the community? And what about people that don't have email, for example? How do we reach folks that aren't plugged in technologically to the system here, that we want to get input?
In western Minnesota, smaller districts out there. And we've done 3 additional things. We put envelopes that are stamped and addressed to me at the district, at City Hall, and at the library. Anybody who wants to can go grab one of those, fill it out, off. Now, put all of that into those surveys. I think, again, it shows that the district really wants it.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Oh, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Michelle, do you have anything further? Michelle?
No,
Okay.
I do not, sorry.
Thanks.
I do have one last question that wasn't on the list. So is there any guarantee, so say this candidate that we do select, like something for some reason doesn't work out within a year or two, is there any, like, are we back at square one with you then?
Well, I mentioned earlier that I've never had a super district administrator hired that didn't get a second.
Okay.
So because this, I've never been faced with that because there's never been a failure because it works. Because frankly, the board works harder and the board makes better decisions. If we get to a place where that person's not working out, we'll have to. You got to have a successful superintendent that can serve board employees. Well, if it happens, what should it happen? We'll have to figure something out to make it.
But thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks, Dr. Miles. And like I said, we'll be making a decision on this in the near future, and we'll get back to you one way or the other fairly soon. So I appreciate your time tonight, and I think the entire board feels that way, that we appreciate all you do and all you do for school. So thank you.
Thanks.
Joe, you got my number and email.
I do.
If you have any questions, up with something you thought about on the way home, give me a shout or let me know if there's a way to answer it. Great. If there's also a way to improve the proposal, this is the format that I sent out. But districts occasionally tweak a little of this or tweak a little of that to make it fit better. So, should we go forward?
Okay.
I hope that's part of it.
Very good. We'll do that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll continue with our meeting agenda now. Item 2C. Before I do that, I failed to mention, I'd like to congratulate the kids at the high school for their play they did this past weekend. I went to that, and it was a great play, I thought. We have a lot of talented kids in this school, so give them a hand. All right, 2C, review and certify written evaluations of school safety drills as required by Wisconsin Act 143. Mr. Berghammer, is he here? He's not here. So.
He's
Oh, he is.
Behind the.
Oh, I can't see him. Okay, sorry about that. Would you like to address that, sir? Thank you.
We provided the drill summary and the drill log from the safety drills we did last week. Mr. Schroeder, Mr. Fiesel, and myself all signed those, and we are in need of Dr. Aslan and Mr. Weiss to sign those as presented. And once those are signed, we will upload those into our files, and then they will be accepted from or meet the expectations of the Wisconsin DOJ. In December, we will do a safety update, and more information on these drills, a little more specific information will be provided at that time.
Okay. Any questions? Do we have a consensus to move this to the November 18th board meeting to certify those?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2D, discuss appointment of board delegate and alternate delegate to the Wisconsin State Education Convention, January 22nd through the 24th, 2025. I would volunteer to do that unless anybody else really has a problem with that or wants to do it themselves. Is anybody going to the convention besides me? Any of you guys planning on coming?
Not at this time, no.
Okay.
I'm interested, but I'm
All right.
trying to work out calendar.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'll volunteer to do that like I have the last couple of years. So
Thank you, we appreciate
we'll
it.
move on. Item 2E, informational early graduates, class of 2025. And I would like to congratulate Bailey Hinkfuss. He is our lone graduate that will graduate early. And I would like to receive that information and place it on file. Does anybody have any comments they want to make or any input on that? Any of the principals?
No.
Okay.
Is that something we have to approve, or you just put it on file?
Yeah, I don't think we need to.
No.
Oh,
Doesn't need approval.
Item 2F, 30-60, 90-day planning. Y'all had a chance to review that? Any questions?
Nope.
Nope.
If not, then we'll receive that information and place it on file also. Item G, financial update, Dr. Aslan.
Financial update for the month of September 2024. We had an income of $89,036.87. Expenditures of $5,128,586.90. General cash balance as of September 30th was $6,006,033.74. And to contrast that with September 2023, balance on hand then was $3,462,712.02.
Any questions? If not, we'll receive that information, place it on file. And finally, item H, approval of vouchers. Everybody have a chance to go over those? Do I have a consensus to move that to the regular meeting as part of the consent agenda?
Yes.
Very good. Item 3, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
And Michelle, do you hear that?
I did hear that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Meeting is adjourned.